Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Coffee.
Well, hello. Welcome to my home. My name is Jeff. I'm an old man from the Midwest, and I'm so happy. In fact, I'm thrilled that you decided to join me today. You know, I rarely watch bioflicks. You know why? Because they're almost always fictionalized, sometimes to the extreme. I mean, you watch one and you say, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe that happened. And then you look into it and say, oh, because it never happened. It was made up for the film. Let's take the film Man with a Thousand Faces from 1957, for example. That's the life story of Lon Chaney Sr., the silent film star. In the movie, his son wants to be an actor as well, Creighton Chaney. Now, Creighton is told by the studios that the only way they'll let him make movies is if he uses his father's name. And his father, Lon Chaney Sr., says, no, you're not going to use my name. But then, on his deathbed, his father takes his makeup case, and his name's on the case, and he writes Junior after his name and hands it to his son, signifying that it's okay to use his name if he's going to be a motion picture star. No, Lon Chaney Jr. never wanted to use his dad's name. Never. In fact, the first couple years he was in the movie business, he used his real name. It was only in 1942 when Universal insisted that he change his name because he was going to make horror films that he did so, and I guess he did it reluctantly. Anyway, see, the problem with bioflicks is a lot of people take them as fact. They believe what they see in the film. I still know people that think the Elliott nest they saw from the 1987 film Untouchables is the real Elliott nest, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, there's nothing truthful about the film The Untouchables. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox here, and I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on August 15th, 1992. It's the 1956 American crime horror science fiction film, The Indestructible Man, directed by Jack Pollexfen and starring Lon Chaney Jr., Casey Adams, Marion Carr, Ross Elliott, Stuart Randle, and many other wonderful people. Now, if you recall, this was the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode in which Joel noticed something odd about the bots. They've all switched bodies. Tom is now Crow, Crow is Tom, Gypsy is Magic Voice, and Magic Voice is Gypsy. After the commercial, the Mads have an unspecified invention which they never reveal, but they use every commercial cliche to pique interest. Joel, Crow, and Tom have come up with serial novels, books on the back of cereal boxes for kids to read while they eat breakfast. After first break, the SOL gang presents the annual Any Excuse for a Parade based on the short Undersea Kingdom, which they have just watched. But it ends in tragedy. Later, Joel explains pain to the bots, and that leads to a conversation of what they would do if they were indestructible. When we come back, Joel attempts the Lon Chaney eye thing, and the bots have fun with him while he does it. Joel gets upset. And we finish with the bots insisting that Joel sign a contract that he will never again make cop donut jokes. And two police show up at the Mads, and they give them a citation for playing music too loud. The scream that shocks the screen with 300,000 volts of horror. Inhuman, invincible, inescapable, Indestructible Man. Are you going to argue with that? Can you argue with that? I don't know if I can, because I have no idea what that means. The scream that shocks the screen with 300,000 volts of horror? I don't know. But you know, those creative words probably would have got me into the theater back in 1956. And no, I didn't see this in the theater. Come on now, I'm not that old. And you get the impression that Lon Chaney's character has some sort of electrical power in the movie, and spoiler here, he doesn't. Anyway, in Bill Warren's book, Keep Watching the Skies, American Science Fiction Films of the 50s, he wrote, despite the presence of Lon Chaney in the title role, The Indestructible Man is a flat, dull, and unoriginal shocker, strictly bottom of the double bill fodder. I can't argue with that either. Anyway, this film starts with a man named Jack Pollexfen. Jack lived from 1908 to 2003. He started out in the newspaper business, working as a copy boy for the Los Angeles Express. At the time, he was attempting to write plays. MGM hired him to turn a magazine article into a screenplay, After serving 4 years in the Air Force during World War II, he began to write B films. Along with Aubrey Weisberg, he wrote The Man from Planet X, and the two thought it would be a good idea to produce it themselves. They hired Edgar G. Ulmer to direct. And that started a whole series of low-budget films that he wrote and produced, including Captive Women in 1952, Swords of Venus from 53, The Neanderthal Man from 53, Captain Kidd and the Slave Girl from 54, Return to Treasure Island also from 54, and many others. Now, he wrote the original screenplay, but it didn't take any writing credits. I wrote the first draft. Sue Bradford and Vi Russell, who get screenplay credit, were the wives of Bill Bradford and Jack Russell, cameramen on many of my pictures. They helped on the second draft. No director I wanted was available, and I had been doing some directing and had my Directors Guild card, so I made the picture. However, I did not want credit as producer, director, and writer. I thought I would leave such credits to Chaplin and Wells. When asked about the final results of the film, he said, "I was reasonably satisfied with it. I thought I did about as good a job of directing as a number of the directors we'd used, but I was not as good as Ulmer or DuPont." Now, not a lot of information is available about this film out there, none that I could find, though I did read that there was a book called Scripts from the Crypt, Indestructible Man by the wonderful film historian Tom Weaver. But I didn't know about that book till I was already working on this episode. I couldn't find a copy, don't have a copy, so I let you down. I do wonder how much of this film was inspired by the TV show Dragnet. I mean, with the cop giving the dry narration throughout, sort of like a Dragnet episode. And also, there was a 1941 Lon Chaney film called Man-Made Monster with a sort of similar premise, but from what I've read, the director said that he was not inspired by that at all. Anyway, so why don't we look at our actors? The film stars, of course, Lon Chaney Jr. as Charles the Butcher Benton. He was born Cretan Tull Chaney and lived from 1906 to 1973. Of course, he was the son of legendary film star Lon Chaney Sr. Jr. had a long career, too much to go into here, but achieved fame for his Universal horror films, starting with The Wolfman in 1941. Now, at the time this movie was made, mainstream monster movies had pretty much dried up, so all the old horror stars could only find work in these low-budget B films. And on top of that, Lon Chaney, of course, was a heavy drinker, so that might have hampered his career a little as well. Now, it has gone around that Chaney's lack of dialogue in Indestructible Man was due to alcohol affecting his memory, but according to the director, that wasn't true. Chaney could handle dialogue reasonably well. Of course, a talkative monster tends to be ridiculous. I found him intelligent, probably more so than many actors. He warned me before starting shooting, don't make any changes in dialogue or new dialogue after lunch, which he drank rather liberally. But to Chaney's credit, he kept on working almost until his death, so. Anyway, Marion Carr plays the stripper Eva Martin. She was born Marion Doris Dunn and lived from 1926 to 2003. She began her career in Chicago working in an office and doing modeling at the same time. She was named Chicago's prettiest office worker in 1946 and then was spotted by a talent scout. Moving to Los Angeles, she began working in local theater before falling into the Howard Hughes web with RKO. She played small roles in such films as Sam Quinton and It's a Wonderful Life, both in 1946. After taking a few years off due to her marriage and having a son, she returned and was in films like Ransom from '54 and Kiss Me Deadly from 1955. She only made a couple of films after this. She retired in 1958 after she married a television producer. Max Showalter plays Lieutenant Richard Chasen. Max Gordon Showalter lived from 1917 to 2000. He's one of those actors that appeared almost everywhere in over 1,000 television shows, according to his obituary. It was a career that lasted from 1948 to 1984, when he was in the John Hughes film 16 Candles. That was his last film appearance. He also did a lot of stage work, as well as being a composer, pianist, and singer. One of his most famous roles was as the husband of Jean Peters' character in the 1953 film Niagara. Another film that might appeal to degenerates like us is The Monster That Challenged the World from 1957. Ross Elliott plays Paul Lowe. He was born Elliott Blum and he lived from 1917 to 1999. He started out as one of the Orson Welles Mercury Theater players, which included the 1938 radio broadcast of War of the Worlds. He was another one of those hard-working actors that just kept on going and going, both in TV and films, with a career that lasted over 40 years with over 250 credits. Some of his more notable films are Problem Girls from 1953, Tarantula from 1955, Monster on Campus from 1958, and The Crawling Hand from 1963. Robert Shane plays Dr. Bradshaw. Born Robert Shane Daw, he lived from 1900 to 1992. He's another one of those actors who had a long career, 60 years. His most famous role was as Inspector Bill Henderson in the American television series The Adventures of Superman. Some of his other films include Tobar the Great from '54, Kronos from 1957, Teenage Caveman from '58, How to Make a Monster also in '58, The Rebel Set in 1959, and many, many, many more. And the last actor I'll talk about is Joe Flynn, who plays Dr. Bradshaw's assistant. Joseph Anthony Flynn III lived from 1924 to 1974. While he is uncredited in this film, I only mention him because people of my age will remember him from the 1960s ABC television situation comedy McHale's Navy and many Walt Disney film comedies, such as The Love Bug from 1969, The Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes in '69, and The $1 Million Duck from 1971. The story goes that he noticed that even when doing a serious role, people would laugh at him, so he figured comedy would be his ticket. In 1975, he reprised his role as Dean Higgins from The Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes in the film The Strongest Man in the World, but passed away before its release from a heart attack. So what is Indestructible Man? We begin with Detective Lieutenant R. Chasin catching the audience up on what's going on. Very nice of him, don't you think?
It began on the day most cases can be called closed. It was the day before the butcher was to be executed. He was visited by his attorney, Paul Lowe, in the death house.
It seems there's some missing money from a robbery and only the butcher knows where it's hidden. His attorney, Paul Lowe, would like to know, but the butcher is a little angry.
Now look, what's the sense in not giving me the money? It's not gonna do you any good.
Well, I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that none of you three crumbs are gonna spend it.
But he has a plan.
I'm gonna get you, all three of you.
Even for you, Butcher, that'd be quite a trick. So long, dead man.
Remember what I said. I'm gonna kill you, all three of you.
With the execution, the case is closed, but Chasin isn't giving up.
And even though I have to keep working on it while off duty, I'm going to get Lowe, Squeamy Ellis, and Joe Marcelli.
Okay, Lieutenant. Officially, I've taken you off of the case. Unofficially, I wish you luck.
He goes to talk to Eva Martin, a dancer in a local burlesque house. She was the girlfriend of the butcher. Now, can I interrupt here and say that this film is an example of how one could make their film more visually interesting, even though they have a limited budget, such as giving an actress like Marion Carr a reason to wear the outfits that she wears in this movie. You can do that by making her a dancer in a burlesque house. That's just good filmmaking, if you ask me. Anyway, she doesn't know anything. Soon after Chasin leaves, she gets visited by Paul Lowe, the scumbag lawyer. As they talk, she finds a letter from the butcher. Apparently, finding a note from your recently executed boyfriend isn't that important because she just leaves without opening it. But Lowe isn't stupid. He opens it and finds a map to the missing money. He replaces it with $50, figuring Eva would just think the butcher left her with a little something. Meanwhile, the other two the butcher threatened seem to be worried as well. But come on, guys. The butcher's about to meet his end in the gas chamber. There's nothing to worry about. It's not like two crazy scientists are going to bring him back from the dead. Oh! Now they inject him with something, but he's dead, right? You know, I'm not a doctor, but I would think that the circulatory system ceases to function once the heart stops beating. Now, Dr. Bradshaw is trying to find the cure for cancer, and he puts this dead man through all kinds of crazy tests with needles and sparks and whatnot. He doesn't find the cure for cancer, but he finds something else a lot more shocking.
Dr. Bradshaw is beginning to breathe. You've brought this man back to life.
Don't you hate it when you're not intending to bring a killer back to life, but you accidentally do? There must be some satisfaction in coming back, however. I mean, after making that what seemed to be an impossible threat earlier. When the doctor, who wasn't intending to bring him back from the dead, tries to take blood, he makes a startling discovery.
Tissue must be nearly a solid mass of cells.
How are we going to get the blood sample?
Surgically, perhaps.
The butcher can hear what they're saying, and, well, he's not too keen on the idea and responds appropriately.
Leave here now. I'm responsible for your being alive.
Well, now, as far as Detective Chasen knows, the butcher is dead. Marion is now available, so why not ask her out on a date?
For the past 6 months, all I've ever called you is Lieutenant Chasen. Do you have a first name?
Dick.
Give me 10 minutes for a quick change, because you've just made yourself a date, Lieutenant. I mean, Dick.
Now, eating burgers in the front seat of a car seems a little odd for a date, but I'm assuming that was a cost-saving measure by the director. This seems to go on, and, well, the bottom line is she convinces him that she knows nothing. Other than that, they just tell each other about their lives. This takes up like 5 minutes of the film.
The butcher was walking slowly toward Los Angeles.
Very slowly.
He'd traveled through wooded hills to prevent being seen by anyone. Finally, he came to a quiet road. He stopped to get his bearings. And then he saw her.
Now, do you think she was hired because of her acting ability? She's traveling with this loudmouth carnival guy, one of the most irritating people on the planet.
Well, see, you're a real gentleman to be helping strangers in distress. I hope you don't mind me using the babe here as bait. Quite a dish, isn't she? But that's what she gets paid for. Bait, that is. Yes, sir. She's a real shaker artist of my outfit. Carnival man myself. Just call me Connie. Yeah. Well, friend, we're in a little bit of difficulty here. Got a flat tire, brand new car, no tools in the back. Why, some of these dealers make my carnival grifters look like babes in the woods.
So the butcher helps him out by being a human jack, but he's not doing it out of the kindness of his heart. He wants the car.
Say, who you with, friend? Let it down, let it down. No matter who you with, friend, believe me, I can do better for both of us. I'll make a fortune for the both of us. Oh!
But the murder gets the police going. Your bullets are like the buzzing of flies to Vigo. Okay, the movie's about half over, so why don't we now sit back and find out where we are at. The butcher, who has been executed knowing the secret of the hidden money, has been brought back to life. He can't talk, but he has superpowers, things like incredible strength, and he's impervious to bullets. Meanwhile, the three that double-crossed him are fearing for their lives, but one of them, his scumbag lawyer, now knows the secret of where the money is hidden. And the cop who is on the case is hitting on the dead man's pretty stripper girlfriend. He also can read newspaper headlines.
I also read the witness's statement about the bullets having no effect upon the killer.
Meanwhile, we get to look at a woman in a burlesque outfit, and I'm not complaining. The butcher arrives and wants to see Eva, who is also looking pretty sexy.
It is you. Why didn't somebody tell me?
After showing off his superpowers, he discovers his map has been taken. Now he's really angry.
I opened it like you told me, and I found the $50. I didn't know why you left him. Paul didn't know why he was here.
And again, the director is getting his money's worth when it comes to those costumes. And we get a look at Angel's Flight, a railway in the Bunker Hill district of downtown Los Angeles, California. This is part of the butcher slowly stalking one of the three he vowed to kill. And it goes on, and on, and on, with Eva following the action. And finally some action. And after all that, the kill takes like 4 seconds. And we get more sneaking around as the butcher looks for his next victim. Surprise! And for this kill, we get 2 screams. The first, a very wimpy one by the victim. And the second one, a pretty decent scream by the witness. In fact, let's watch that witness scream one more time. Now there's only one left, the scumbag attorney Paul Lowe.
Here, see how these fit.
Low heels.
I'm sorry, it's the best our wardrobe department can afford.
Why do I think that line was something said during the making of the film, and they thought it was funny so they put it into the script? I'm just guessing. But to make a long story short, Paul Lowe turns himself into the police for protection, but in an effort to get him to talk, they threaten to release him.
You know the butcher threatened to kill me. You set me free, he'll do it.
Well, that's just a risk we'll have to take. But the way I look at it, Mr. Lowell, you'll be okay.
Look, Captain, I'll make a deal with you. You keep me here, and I'll tell you how to recover the money. Maybe even catch the butcher.
And it works. He tells the police where the money is in the sewer system. And that's just where the butcher is headed. This is not exactly the third man, is it? Finally, the butcher finds the money as the police move in.
Hold it, Butcher. Let him have it.
No, not even bazookas can stop him, nor a flamethrower. Though I'm wondering why the flamethrower didn't burn off his clothes? Lonely and confused, the butcher winds up at a power plant. He gets this thing moving and it makes contact with the high power. I've never worked in an electrical power plant before, but I have my doubts that this could happen. If it can, someone should talk to the safety inspector. Anyway, it was electricity that gave him life, and it's electricity that took it away.
I suppose you'll be assigned to another case. I'll have to give up hamburgers in the front seat of the car for steaks in a restaurant.
No, I've thought about that. In fact, I decided to do something about it. I started by talking the captain into a short holiday, and just about an hour ago, I got you fired.
What?
Excuse me? That's a red flag, Eva. You should get out of there. I mean, you just met a couple days ago.
What'd you do that for?
I figured that being my wife would take up all of your time.
Even if I wanted to say no, I couldn't. You're not supposed to say no to a detective.
No, it's perfectly fine to say no. In fact, you should say no.
I figured that, too.
Okay, that end was horrible. It really was, but I sort of like this movie. Yes, it's filled with cheesy dialogue, it's shot poorly, and there are many, many dull moments, but I don't know what it is. I sort of have a fondness for these low-budget black and white horror films. But I was thinking, if the film had started with the butcher already back from the dead and he's already killing people, that would have been far more interesting. I mean, we could have followed the cop as he uncovers the story of why this is happening, and we would have learned it all together. That would have been far more interesting. It's like in the movie Terminator. At the beginning, you're like, why is Arnold trying to kill Sarah Connor? And then, 15, 20 minutes in, I'm like, oh, because she's the mother of the leader of the revolution in the future. I get it now. Something like that would have been far more interesting to me. But like many of the films we talk about, the writers really needed to sit down and think about the logic of their story and figure out what the story they're trying to tell is about and go from there, right? I mean, to me, this is like a 45-minute story stretched out to 70 minutes. There's all that padding. I mean, not as bad as a Lippert film, but there's a lot. I mean, that scene in the car where the detective and the stripper talk about their lives, wow, that just goes on. And all that stalking by the butcher. Yeah, anyway. I'd like to remake The Indestructible Man, and I figure I need maybe $500,000 or so to do it, right? So if you happen to have $500,000 laying around and you'd like to invest, hey, send it my way, help me out. So no one is credited with the music from this movie. But apparently it was composed by Albert Glasser, and we've talked about Albert before. He lived from 1916 to 1998, and he did a ton of music for these B movies, including most of Burt I. Gordon stuff. Anyway, I like the music in this film. Why Glasser was uncredited, I can't say. Now I've got two obscure references to talk about today. Both come from the same bit.
Because I'm the wanderer, they call me the wanderer.
The butcher was walking slowly toward Los Angeles.
The killer awoke before dawn.
He traveled through wooded hills.
Okay, the first part is from a 1961 song by Dion called The Wanderer. Now, an interesting fact about that song is it was actually the B-side of a single, the A-side being The Majestic, but disc jockeys at the time decided that they liked The Wanderer better, so that became the hit. And kids, if this is not making any sense to you, ask your parents. I don't have time to explain it right now. Anyway, then there's the line, "The killer woke before dawn." That's a spoken word part of the Doors song, "The End," which goes into a whole Oedipus Rex thing that I'm not going to get into. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching today. If you haven't seen my Mary Castle documentary that I posted last week, you should check it out. It's a very interesting story about an actress who had a rise and fall type thing, and actually, I thought it was interesting. Anyway, in 2 weeks, I'll be talking about the film Hercules versus the Moon Men. And I don't know what I've really got to talk about there. It might be a short episode, though I know nothing of Alan Steele, nothing at all, so there might be something there. But I will give you a spoiler. Alan Steele is not his real name. Anyway, till I get back in 2 weeks, you stay healthy, take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.